I think there's little bits of this that I found really, really affecting. Seeing tears on a page, and so that meant something to myself, let alone what was going on in the movie. I thought that was really effective.
Anime fans are the worst people to talk to about anything because we can't go like 5 seconds without recommending something. It's like almost like a disease. I feel it like creeping up on me now.
Christian Bale, the voice acting in this is insane. It's like he's in a completely different film to everyone else.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Today I'm joined by Leslie.
Hello.
Kambole.
Hi.
And Helen.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about The Boy and the Heron. Thank you as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes, and thanks to Ben from Rocket Audio for editing this podcast and all of our episodes. Please do remember to head over to Spotify and Apple Podcast and Pocket Cast and give us a 5-star rating and a massively glowing review. And if you do that, you might get something in a post like Kambole did for the shirt he's now wearing. Please join the conversation with us on Twitter at Flixwatcher Pod if you're still on Twitter. Everywhere else, we're at Flixwatcher Online. Instagram, Facebook. I've just got access to Facebook again. Go back there. If you want to message on Facebook, I can respond to messages there now.
Hello film fans, welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Our guests today are Kambole and Leslie. Over to you please, Leslie, to tell the listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please.
A little bit of a Nathan Barley, I guess. Lots of photography, writing and podcasting. I've been kind of bumbling along for years. I'm part of the Fatal Attraction podcast, which has been bumbling along for good 6 years now.
Bumbling?
Yeah.
Bumbling?
Yes.
You're selling yourself short
Should
there,
be
I
like
think.
slinking along sexily, but also maybe slightly in a comedic style.
But yeah, just kind of working our way through a lot of the mainstays of the genre and of the erotic thriller genre and all the kind of things that are kind of surrounding it, meaning that we get to do stuff like Species and kind of get away with it.
I love it when there's like podcasts talk about the same films that you guys do, because I think it was on Rewatchables, the Ringer podcast, they talked about Species recently. And I only watched that when I was at university when it first came out, because... Why? Because there's a girl who got naked in it. I completely forgot that Michael Madsen was in it.
Yeah.
When they were talking about it. And I was like, holy shit. Because that's why they picked it after he died. And they were like, let's rewatch a film with Michael Madsen. Not Reservoir Dogs. Open Species.
Yeah. But yeah, at the moment, I'm trying to get back into just writing my old blog and just kind of keeping myself sharp and seeing what I can do for the next year, because family life has kind of changed things around a little bit. It doesn't make it as easy to do certain things anymore. So yeah. That's what I'm doing.
Kambole, who are you?
Who am I, indeed? Existential questions aside, I am a film critic and curator. I write freelance, so I've done stuff for Vulture, for Empire, GQ, a few other places. For curation, programming is like attributing too much work to myself. I picked some films for the Scotland Loves Anime Festival, which is in a week from the time of recording, so in the past probably, but there is a strand in London, even though it's called Scotland Loves Anime. There's a strand in Glasgow and one in Edinburgh, and each one has a different string of films. So London got the big robots and Glasgow and Edinburgh got the action films.
When you said the big robots, that's not Transformers. What are we talking about?
Like Gundam, close, but but more about the military-industrial complex than anything else. There's things like Char's Counterattack, Promare, and some other films that hopefully will have gone over well, or are going over well, depending on when this releases.
You're quite far removed from it, and hopefully get the feedback that's all right.
Yeah. It's critically acclaimed, putting that out there. Yeah, and I also run a animation newsletter called RE Frame, which is a pun based on inbox stuff. So me and 2 other writers from the States, Toussaint Egan and Roland Bishop, we send out newsletters twice a week about not really animation news, because that's well covered already, but it's more like thoughts and feelings on shorts and television and stuff that gets coverage, but not serious coverage all the time. So it's kind of an open book in terms of what we actually want to write about, which is fun. We're trying not to make it too bloggy.
Twice a week's a good commitment there. So kudos to you.
Easier with 3 people. It's a lot, but we've kept pace. We've done about 23 cents now. Well, more by again.
By the time
We're really
it
kind of
comes
playing
out.
with the concept of time here, but like, just go for it.
Yes, I'm operating on a different plane right now.
Well, we're here to talk about the film you chose, Kambole, which is The Boy and the Heron.
Potentially a predictable choice.
Segue with animation, which is your, I don't want to call it a genre, but it's what you like to talk about in any scenario, isn't it? Animation is your forte.
Yeah, every scenario. In fact, I brought it up at my proposal. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, well. My mind was spinning then.
It's the obvious choice for me, perhaps, but this was the most recent film by Hayao Miyazaki, one of the co-founders of Studio Ghibli, which is probably, the most famous animation house in the world, other than a certain couple that I won't mention right now.
Okay, you have a minute to give us the synopsis for The Boy and the Heron, starting from... I just noticed you took a sip of some kind of juice. Okay, starting from now.
All right. The Boy and the Heron is an adaptation of the Japanese writer Genzaburo Yoshino's novel How Do You Live? But it's not really an adaptation of it. It just kind of borrowed the name for a bit, but also not in the English release. So I'm already doing well with the timer here, aren't I? But it's basically semi-autobiographical in a sense because it's about Hayao Miyazaki kind of reckoning with his childhood during the war. But it's also not autobiographical because it's a fantasy about a boy named Mahito whose mother dies in the firebombing of Tokyo. His father remarries and they move to the countryside, and Mahito is distant to his new stepmother, sees a grey heron, and then travels into another world where he basically learns to deal with the loss of his mother. It's a little bit like Spirited Away in that sense, but there's a lot of Miyazaki's older work tied up in it as well. It feels like a kind of culmination of his whole career.
Very nice.
Lovely. Leslie, have you seen this before Kambole chose it for us?
No, I hadn't seen it before. With me, anime is... I don't get to see a lot of it. Not because it's not available to me. It's more the sense of there is so much stuff to watch. And it gets caught in the list. And one of them, for me, anime is a little bit like Bollywood, where there's so much of it. It's so rich and there's so much good stuff. And sometimes I get a little bit paralysed into where to start.
Anime is like Bollywood.
Yeah, there's so much of it to kind of get into, and when you speak to fans of the stuff, there's so much that you need to put on lists, and I just find it a bit paralysing.
Anime fans are the worst people to talk to about anything because we can't go like 5 seconds without recommending something. Like, it's almost like a disease. I feel it like creeping up on me now.
It's the fact the names are so weird and wonderful, and also at the same time, because of that, quite easy to forget.
If it's a full sentence and it has a question mark and not by Miyazaki, then you kind of steer away from that.
But no, I hadn't seen it before. I'd seen Princess Mononoke a while back. I've seen Spirited Away, and I was quite happy because not only I saw Spirited Away, but I actually managed to see Spirited Away in a cinema when it first was released, 2002.
Oh, wow.
In Wickham. So therefore, it was a film that really travelled, and it was one that really, really kind of put Miyazaki on the map for, I think, a lot of people, especially around that time. And then I think the most recent stuff I've seen it was more manga than anime, but I think the most recent things I've seen was, I've had it for years, but I haven't ever watched Akira. And I just had to...
Cambole's head nearly fell off his shoulders.
Yeah, but, when it came... It's 1989, guys. I would have been 5, 6.
Sorry, I'm narrating for the people who can't see because it's an audio podcast. Helen, had you seen Boy and the Heron before?
So I have, yes. I saw this in the cinema in 2023. This would only have been my second Studio Ghibli that I've managed to see in the cinema.
Begs the question.
I thought second ever for a second.
Oh, no, not second ever, but the only one that I've experienced in real time being released and had the opportunity to go and see it. I just didn't have a good time. I'm really sorry. And like when you were saying anime was your thing, I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. I was so looking forward to this and it just didn't work. And also I'm just like...
All right, thanks for having me on Flixwatcher.
It's just like, I'm super sad because like he's come out of retirement. Like, is this going to be like the last Miyazaki film that he's going to do? And is this going to be it? And am I going to be taken back to the cinema and just going, oh my God, when's this film going to end? So it looks beautiful. And there's some bits that I do really love, but I think all of it coming together doesn't really work. And I think what it was rewatching it is that it kind of felt a little bit like the child storytelling structure, in that it's very much like, oh, we're going to crawl in this thing, and then there's a bird, but the bird is actually a man, and then, oh, look, and then there's some parakeets, and then there's some rocks and a man's holding them, and then we're going to go there, and then there's things on fire, and then I was just like, but what does it all mean? Where is it all going? So yeah, it just makes me a bit sad that I didn't like it. The score's lovely, and yeah, it looks really, really beautiful, and we are going to come on to it, but Christian Bale, like, the voice acting in this is insane. It's like he's in a completely different film to everyone else.
So were you switching dubbed versus subs, or did you go straight for the?
I went full for the dub because I'd seen it first in the cinema, and also the voice cast for this was kind of insane, and I wanted to see where they would go with that, because like Dave Bautista is one of the voice, Christian Bale, Florence Pugh, Gemma Chan. I feel like maybe someone else as well, quite famous.
Pattinson.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Pattinson.
Yes, Pattinson, that's it. Yeah. And Willem Dafoe as well. So like the voice acting it is like top tier in terms of like who they've got for this. But the Christian Bale voice, like that character's weird anyway. He basically marries his wife.
Which character he is.
He's the father who drives around in a too small car for himself and basically sends his grieving only child at that point off to a weird school and marries his deceased wife's sister and knocks her up, and then moves his son to the countryside and sends him to a weird school. He's a weird guy. Like,
I don't think it's that weird.
That guy, like, is that meant to be his kind of father in real life? Is there a lot going on there? No, just a very strange character. But the Christian Bale voice is something else.
There's a little bit of Miyazaki's father in it, because they had the same job in constructing canopies for fighter planes. And Miyazaki, I think, has spoken about his interest and kind of his complicated emotions about that, because he was like, his father was compartmentalizing, because he's like, oh, I only built the cockpits for fighter planes, but...
Yeah,
and
contributing to war, yeah.
Yeah, so he was saying that he had complicated feelings that he came to terms with later on. It's all tied up in a lot of the characters in Boy and the Heron, but I don't think in a sense that is strictly for people who have like kind of read all the personal essays and done all this stuff. I think there's a lot of himself in there in a way that is quite open and fascinating to me anyway. But I don't find the sister thing that weird.
When did it become super apparent? Because when he first met... Well, Mahito, he first met his stepmother.
It's quite early.
Yeah, so I don't recall it saying specifically, but I thought...
It's like a bit in the script. It's like really kind of...
They said she looked exactly like him.
Yeah, and it just kind of switches, and then you kind of realise, oh, okay. I don't find it strange because I don't know, because I think adult relationships are actually really, really odd, and we like to kind of pretend that they all kind of go on this kind of linear, kind of simple, easy, this happens, this happens, this happens. However, just looking at that kind of family dynamic, it doesn't actually surprise me in any shape or form to see it like that, and to see it in that way from what is a child's perspective is actually I found quite interesting. Where it's like, yeah, they do look the same. Yeah, that is why he would do, why he as a father would go that way. Not saying, it's not a right thing or anything else like that. It's just an interesting observation to see from a child's eye that it kind not make sense. That's not the right word, but it's not a surprising, it's not a shocking thing to me.
Yeah, it's not conventional, certainly, but given the time and what that's kind of meant in terms of, holy shit, now I'm the dad to my son hasn't got a mother, and there is some kind of family over there, and it can, the marriage of convenience or love or whatever, I can definitely see it happening. It makes sense. Although in this day and age, probably would be a bit weird, but I've seen weirder stories displayed on the front cover of newspapers. So I don't think it's the strangest thing.
I think you kind of nailed something there, like a marriage of convenience. And it's just like, oh well, And at the beginning, it almost felt like he had that relationship before his mother died. And I found that to be quite an interesting little like wrinkle in the story. Like there was a strange, apparent closeness already there. And I don't know, I think it's just looking back at like aspects of family that I've seen and whatnot, and you do see these strange things and these strange relationships kind of grow out of almost nowhere. And you just, maybe it's just me and, you know, from my own personal family, but it's not that they keep secrets. It's more the sense that they don't kind of inform you as a child of certain things. And it just felt really apparent and just not shocking because of what adults are like.
So Kambole, picking up on what Helen was saying about the structure of the film, do you have any rebuttal?
I think dreamlike is more the approach than a kind of... I don't think it's like the randomness is meaningless or like just arbitrary. I mean, he's a filmmaker who does storyboard as he goes along. Like the storyboard comes before the script in a lot of Ghibli films. So he is kind of an image maker first. But at the same time, I do think that there's a lot of intent behind everything he's doing. Like, for example, The Man with the Shapes, kind of the most common reading is that that's a kind of stand-in for Miyazaki himself. It's a film reckoning with a guy who is kind of building an empire that, like a visual empire that is kind of feeling very precarious at the moment, and he wants to pass it off to somebody. And his son doesn't seem to be like quite up to the task, or is like his offspring doesn't seem up to the task.
Is that case in real life?
Yes.
Dad, is this about me?
I think they have actually denied that, like, no, this film's not about Goro Miyazaki. But there is, at the very least, a parallel with the state of Ghibli in that it was meant to have an inheritor in a filmmaker who directed Whisper of the Heart, whose name is Yoshifumi Kondo, but he passed. And then it kind of fell to Goro to potentially be like the inheritor of the studio. And then his films weren't very good.
Ouch.
Oh, no.
And famously so. And I think also because he just wasn't really interested in picking up the mantle. So it's kind of like, on its face, Boy and the Heron feels like a film about not just a person learning to move on, but also in the sense of an older man learning to reckon with the idea that maybe it's narcissistic to want an inheritor and a legacy and all of that stuff. It feels very much like a kind of... It's a very much a late career film by him where he's like, what does any of this mean? And which his last film was kind of about as well, because The Wind Rises also had its reckoning with like building something that maybe isn't good for the industry in the long term or the landscape on some level. So I think a lot of that kind of ties together in very kind of impressionistic and dreamlike imagery, which I think kind of both ties back to his earlier films in some senses. Like Spirited Away is like the kind of, I think, the clearest comparison point here. Like you can see it in how the kind of Wara Wara spirits and the Kodama in the Kodama from Princess Mononoke fit together with this. Although I think this has a slower build, so maybe it feels like a bit more of a shock when things kind of begin cascading so quickly.
Yeah, I think for me, the first film I saw for Ghibli was Spirited Away. And first time I saw it, I was kind of blown away. I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And then watching other Ghibli films, every time I see another one, Spirited Away kind of goes lower and lower down the pecking order. Because on a revisit, for me, Spirited Away has the very episodic nature to it. And I couldn't really grasp that versus Princess Mononoke, which we talked about recently. Watching that for the first time, I was like, damn, I love the story here. It kind of brings everything together. And with one thing I still love about The Spirited Away is that right from the start, you know you're in a different world. From the moment they start eating and then turn into pigs, you're like, okay, this is not Japan, Earth as we know it. This is definitely Fantasyland. What I found a bit weird here was that it kind of took a while to kick into the fantasy world, and then it started to have its, like, I slightly agree with Helen with it starts to have its episodic nature to it. And I can't remember, there was a specific point where I was like, wait, what? Because it looked like there's a story developing, then it just stopped, and then suddenly it was like up in chains. And there's no kind of, I almost stopped the recording and tried to rewind it back to see if I'd missed something randomly. But it just did that a few times. I was like, that's the film, but it didn't really it kind of distanced me rather than pulled me in. That said, it looks amazing.
That's quite interesting. I mean, I found it similar to... I just found myself watching it and I was reminded of things like Terry Gilliam's Tideland and David Lynch the old man near the end kind of reminded me of the man in the machine in Eraserhead, and this guy who seems to have this creation, he doesn't know what to do with it type thing. That's just me. I mean, I was kind of okay with the dream logic. I felt that it kind of rushes together at the end of the film quite quickly, and where the opening of the movie is quite sparse and quite slower in its build. And then it kind of rushes together, and then there's certain, not even revelations, there's things that happen that we know, we're just waiting for it to kind of, the penny to drop, and it just kind of rushes by quite quickly. I think you kind of know what I mean, involving a certain character, certain female character.
You can give spoilers.
I was going to say, I think there's a lot of things here that are maybe working for me and less so for other people, because in some senses I'm kind of defining The Boy and the Heron by what it's not rather than what it is. Watching a lot of anime, you find that the storytelling is very, I don't want to say patronizing, but I'm kind of approaching something like that, where it's a little bit didactic, especially if you're watching kind of a lot of populist stuff, because this is stuff that's kind of squarely aimed at teenagers, and it just kind of doesn't fully trust people to follow along. There's a lot of narration, and there's a lot of clear, like, this is the theme, or like if someone says something, there'll be a visual to kind of very clearly accompany it as this is the symbolism of it and this is what it means. And so I think that the kind of sparseness of this film, the diffuseness of the narrative, and maybe the insistence on kind of making you work for it in terms of like reaching the symbolism, or just being kind of opaque, I found quite refreshing and appealing to me, especially when this is a film that children could watch as well.
I really liked that aspect of it, and I think one of the reasons why I like that aspect of it is I'm kind of sick and tired of a lot of modern movies. No, but I'm kind of sick and tired of this thing on where I don't necessarily want everything to be miserable, or like you have like really having to challenge your thought or anything. But I found myself watching a lot of older movies, and I think that we as audiences were much better with watching this stuff and trying to extrapolate certain things and pulling what we wanted out of this stuff.
We definitely, our tastes have evolved in probably the most obvious ways, that films used to take a while to build up and you kind of settle into it. Now they do have to it has to be a flashback to pull people in to let them settle into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those films where I did actually have to rewind certain bits of it, and one of the reasons why was just because the fact that I'm watching it at home, and the problem with watching stuff at home is second screen syndrome, where it's very easy just to pick up your phone and just have a look at it, and then this one kind of demanded.
Were you subbing or dubbing?
Subbing. I always kind of sub. The reason why I use the subtitles was I always have for any movie that isn't like English language.
How can you second screen with this is my question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Shooting
it's just
yourself in the
where
foot.
It's like, actually, I need to sit with some of this stuff. And one of the things I was someone who really liked little parts of it, the little marshmallowy things. I'm going to call them the Warawaras. I found really moving, and that's a reason why it's really personal to myself, and it kind of reminded me of things like Pixar's Soul and stuff like that. And
what about the Porgs in The Last Jedi?
No. and then one of the reasons why is because, that kind of brings me back to what I was saying. And like the problem I have with stuff like The Last Jedi or anything like that is, I don't know, I think so many modern films are kind of battling with themselves of order being what they want to be, or having to kind of pander to an audience that is too hypercritical of them and too fixated on things like canon. So I found it really interesting to sit with something that is just kind of enigmatic at times, and just like it won't tell you everything, and it will tell you only certain things quite quickly. And it's quite interesting to just kind of pay attention and to kind of sit with it. I don't think necessarily all of it kind of works well for maybe like an even broader audience, because I do think that we are now in this space where we kind of not need to be told, but it's one of those things where if it's not in the script, then suddenly it's so-called not good. Whereas this is like, I don't know, I think there's little bits of this that I found really, really affecting. Seeing tears on a page, and so that meant something to myself, let alone what was going on in the movie. I thought that was really effective. And then the more I was thinking about it, at the end of the film, it seems really abrupt, but it was actually quite...
And then they went back to Tokyo.
Yeah, I found that quite affecting, because it is one of those things. It reminded me of things like Tideland, and it reminded me of little bits like Boyhood, where, you know, you're kind of dealing with memory and messaging and how things kind of disappear, and
Life goes on.
yeah.
Let's head to the scores on that note.
I'm Sam Clements, host of the 90 Minutes or Less Film Festival, another podcast in the Stripped Media family, a podcast that celebrates movies under 90 minutes long. Each episode, I'm joined by a special guest who selects a movie to join our prestigious lineup. Past guests have included fellow Stripped Media family members Martin and Sam from Song by Song, and Kobe from Flixwatcher, and Dave from The Wire Stripped. Search for us now on the app you're currently listening to this podcast, or join us at 90minfilmfest.com.
Welcome to our Flixwatcher scores. They are always out of 5. You can have decimal places if you wish. And we'll start with you, please, Kambole, with your recommendability.
I think 4. I'd recommend most Ghibli movies to anyone in a heartbeat. This one, I think I would move further down the scale a little, just because it is, for all intents and purposes, like, well, but it is looking increasingly like it's going to be Miyazaki's final film. Like, the guy is getting on in years, and, well, this one took years to make, so it doesn't, even though I think it's already been said by one of his producers that he's working on another one, I'm very skeptical as to whether that will ever actually get finished.
It's like the George R.R. Martin syndrome.
And not even that. I think it's little bit different, where it's like he is very clearly actively working on it.
Yeah. George R.R. Martin's doing anything but.
I'm going to hope maybe one last cat-themed one would be my wish.
So you want another Kiki's Delivery Service, Helen?
No, it doesn't have to be like part 2 for that, but maybe...
The cat returns too.
Yeah, the cat returns. Yeah.
Is Totoro cat-like for you? Is that...
Yeah, well, the cat buzz, like, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to all be cats. I mean, the cat returns is weird, even for someone who loves cats. I was just like, this is maybe a bit too much.
There's one out there for everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I would recommend it. It's kind of it depends kind of question, because I think it's quite an elegiac film, which benefits seeing other Miyazaki films first, because there's a lot of kind of familiarity in it, which I think enriches the experience of watching this one. Not that it's like you have to do homework and you have to like read all of this and do all of this before watching this one. It's just like, you know, it's not the first Ghibli film I'd recommend to somebody, even though it is one I really like.
I'm going to come back to that in a second, but you classed it as elegiac, Kambole. Leslie, you said enigmatic. These are very fancy words for this podcast. I love it.
Really?
This is why we're
Why have you put us on?
Are we going to do, so what would be your top 3 that you would recommend to people?
I'd say just go with the top 1, because looking at the time, but what would be your entry gateway into it?
Castle in the Sky.
Really?
It's the first one.
Okay.
I've seen that one. Just trying to remember.
It also is like kind of the adventure structure for a lot of their films. So
I've not seen that
when you've seen Castle in the Sky, you've seen a lot of them.
Helen, what would you recommend first to people?
Call me basic, but I would say Totoro.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, that too.
90 minutes. It's great. It's got cat buzz in it.
Have you got gateway access to Ghibli stuff, Leslie?
Yeah, I got one or two if there was... Now, here's the thing. Here's me being the downer as I always am. If there was one I would recommend, it would be Grave of the Fireflies.
Oof.
I haven't watched it yet. I'm like still psyching myself up. And also, I think someone will probably pick it for the podcast, and that will be the moment.
Yeah, it's...
I've just heard so many things.
Mm.
It's very hard going.
It's a barrel of laughs.
Yeah.
But it's the one that kind of, when I think about the ones I've seen, and I always seem to want to go back to, it's just finding time to try and do that. So
I do like Takahata a lot, actually.
I think, what would I choose?
Well, didn't you say that Princess Mononoke was...
It's probably my favourite. I wouldn't start there, because that goes to some dark places.
What was that?
Mononoke.
You were saying Only Yesterday by Isao Takahata? Oh, yeah, me too. I totally agree with that one.
Honestly, what I really liked Takahata-wise was The Tale of Princess Kaguya. But that's not... I wouldn't lead people into that for Ghibli. I would...
Why not?
Because the animation style is different to the rest of them, so...
That's why it's great.
Okay, I'll take Kaguya. And that was the first one I saw in the cinema.
You can do whatever you want. I'm not your boss.
Nah. Oh, damn it. I asked a question and I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared myself.
You're still thinking?
I'm still thinking. I'm not happy. I was like, Ponyo? No. I think it might be Howl's Moving Castle, actually. Howl's Moving Castle is one that's like, hey, this is a bit random. But also, there's
the Iraq War movie.
Sorry, Leslie, your recommendability score.
I would say recommendability, I'd say 3. And the reason why I say 3, because it's just because of, it depends on who the audience is. I think it is one of those ones where, like, I enjoyed what I got out of it, but I don't think it's easy to, I can't see me passing this to my son just yet. I mean, he is only 2.
Honestly,
he might enjoy it more than me.
I got Milo on Across the Spider-Verse like as soon as I could do.
Well, the thing is, I think Spider-Verse will work more because he's in a Spider-Man phase at the moment, whereas this would be, I think it would be a bit too much for him at this moment in time. He's more sensitive than I thought, but that's not a bad thing.
No love for terrifying parakeets.
Well, yeah.
Why are they so sinister?
I'm a big fan of them. I love that. That was the best thing in the world.
In the Ghibli theme park, there's a big warehouse where they have a cinema and they have all of this stuff, and there's like a big village. It's just like the whole thing you can walk around, and then they have like life-size versions of the parakeets just like in little cages, like tucked away, like behind places.
It's just the eyes. It's just a vacant stare. It's amazing.
That's so funny.
Helen, recommendability score.
I'm going to give it 3. I think there's a lot there if it kind of touches you in the right way. But I've always been a little bit of a mixed. I don't love every Studio Ghibli one. And the ones where there's a lot more people in them, this kind of like maybe is a bit half and half. But the more weird non-people, I think I tend to lean a little bit more.
You didn't like Porco Rosso?
So. Why is he a pig? Just like...
Not Porco Rosso. Was it Porco Rosso?
Oh, Pompoko with the raccoon testicles.
Pompoko, yeah. That's the one, yeah.
Pompoko. That was just too long. If it had been a bit shorter, I love the message, but it was a bit long. And yeah, I just really, really wanted to like it, but it didn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
I'm going to go for a 3.5, and I'll ask anyone the question, have you seen any Ghibli first? If not, then it wouldn't stay this way. But if they have, and I've seen a couple of them, I'd say, yeah, obviously watch it. So, repeat viewing score. Kambole.
I think it gets more rewarding on repeat viewings. So I'm going to keep it at this level of 4. It's a much more patient film than even some of Miyazaki's own ones because he does a lot of adventures. So, sometimes you're just not in the mood for a 40-minute sequence of a boy like kind of adjusting to his new life and...
then it all goes a bit strange.
And like the minute details and stuff, or like kind of going for like wild impressionism and things like that. Sometimes you just kind of want the meat and potatoes films. So, I mean, yeah, anything below a 5 for a Ghibli film is like me thinking twice about it. Yeah, I think less so than others, but I did get a lot out of it, especially in that I think a lot of it is quite visually daring for Miyazaki, who I see as a bit of a, he does a lot of dreamlike stuff, but he's quite a traditionalist. So for him to mess around with stuff like the opening fire sequence.
Yeah, the fire was amazing.
By an animator called Shinya Ohira, who is doing one of the Star Wars Vision shorts, which I think will be out by the time this comes out. But yeah, I was rereading an interview with another one of the animators on the film who was saying that they basically planned that sequence with Ohira in mind to do it. So he was like kind of always the guy. And yeah, he was like a first key animator in early meetings, according to a Sakuga blog, which is like a blog dedicated to writing about anime. It's a beautiful sequence. And I think there's like a bunch of other ones where he kind of just leaves the animators to their own devices in a way which I think is quite refreshing for these, because as I said, a lot of the boarding is done by Miyazaki himself. He's very controlled about these productions, and this felt loose in a way that a lot of these films don't often.
I think that opening fire sequence is probably one of the reasons I'm a bit more down in it than I thought I would be. This is the first time watching it, but because when that started, it's like, oh shit, here we go. And then it was like, oh, come on. Let's get going.
When do we get to the fireworks factory?
Repeat viewing score, Leslie.
I'd say 3.5. One of the things I liked about this is it does feel like it'll get richer when I know a little bit more about the broader history of it all. When you watch more things, it'll become richer. As I get older, it's a film that I feel that will become richer. There's a lot of kind of Wizard of Oz to it. There's shots of it that reminded me of Ico, the video game, and like Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Like there's just this, there was something about it that I really would like to explore again, just in terms of its world building. I found it was very, very beautiful, even though it was quite simple in its look. And I don't mean that as a downer. I mean,
well, there was some. I loved when they're going through the caves, for example, and had the iridescence and the kind of sparking and stuff like that. Helen, repeat viewing score.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that fire at the start now, because that is like truly incredible. Like, that's really, really good. So, repeat viewing.
If it was just the fire, how many times have you watched the fire sequence?
It felt like the first, up until the heron turned out not to be a heron, I was like super, super, super into it. But I don't know, something about when that heron wasn't the heron.
Yeah.
I don't know, my brain just was like, oh. And I don't know why. I don't know, I really didn't like the heron inside. I didn't like the man inside the heron, I think. And that just really put me off. He's just, oh. And I don't know why. It just makes me feel uncomfortable, I think. I don't really like birds that much either. Repeat viewing. I'm going to go down the middle, 2.5.
So completely not the film for you if you don't like birds, and there's like massive ones, massive menacing parakeets.
Yes, sure about them.
I actually had a similar thing with the heron. When, first of all, when it started speaking and it had the teeth, I was like, oh, this is quite interesting. But then when it turned into the guy, I was like, oh no. What's going on? But then it was quite funny when he first turned and he couldn't fly properly and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I much preferred it in the heron form.
There's some really great acting from him. It's so well drawn.
Yeah. It looked great. I did love how it did it, how it was all put together. But ultimately, I preferred the elegance of the heron, I think. It's a loss of elegance, I think, with the heron changing to the half-man thing. 3.1. I will watch it again. Still need to watch all the rest of the Ghibli films, but this will be here. And I probably need to refer to yourself, Kambole, and get some insight before a rewatch to get more in-depth into it. Kambole, small screen score. You saw this in cinema?
I've only seen it in the cinema, so I've seen it a few times.
Okay. Wow. So, what is your small screen score for The Boy and Heron?
Maybe a 3. I don't want to watch it on anything small. I don't know. I think it kind of comes down a little bit to what Leslie was saying earlier in that the second screen thing. It's like a film I really want to focus on. And as much as I like to think that I am someone who can concentrate when I need to, it just doesn't feel the same. Although I've watched plenty of Ghibli films at home, like this one is on the longer and, again, more decompressed side than a lot of the other ones. So, and also, I like to look at the pictures big.
Leslie, do you like to look at the pictures big?
Yeah, comparing this to Spirited Away when I watched it at the cinema, there was something about the mood that it brought watching that at the cinema. I've recently managed to get, I think I've been to the cinema twice in 2 years in the last, just due to the nature of life, and then watching stuff on a small screen just doesn't affect me in the same way. So watchability for this, I'd say probably 2.5, but it would possibly go to a 3, maybe more if you have a bigger TV screen. If you have a chance to kind of capture.
So small screen score, so what are you going for small screen score, 2.5 or?
Yeah, 2.5.
Helen?
Even though it wasn't the moving moments that I thought it was going to be, it was really nice, like seeing people bringing like their kids to the cinema, and they seem to be enjoying it as well. So I'm going to give it a 4. I think obviously if you can see it big, because we all like to see things big, it is really nice, and the score is really amazing as well.
I like to see the pictures big.
See the pictures big, yeah.
I'm going to go for 2.5. I feel I didn't do the second screen thing like Leslie did, but I think I definitely felt the pull of my phone in my pocket going, just have a look. Just have a look, Kobe.
That little heron, there's a heron inside you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something I've never had in the cinema.
No. Say emails in Robert Pattinson's voice.
Engagement score. Kambole.
I don't know, 5? I was locked in.
You can say 5. That's all good. Leslie.
3. It would have been 4 if I was in the cinema.
Helen.
Average it out from the 2 watches, 3.5.
And I'm going to go for... It's going to be 3. Yeah, I was just like, oh, come on. It's going to be some... I was fading a bit towards the end. And then it just ended. And I was like, okay, well, why not?
That's how a lot of them end.
Okay, Sarah. And that gives us an overall score of 3.31875. I didn't think it's going to be the highest rated Ghibli film? Helen, have you done your whiz-bangery and checked the scores of previous Ghiblis?
Oh, yeah, it's the lowest.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's lower than the raccoons. I think small screen score probably hurt it the most here. Yeah, what is it?
The top being?
Spirited Away is our top Flixwatcher rated.
Is it? Even though I said I didn't like it that much.
It's quite close. Howl and Spirited Away are both quite close.
And what was the overall score there?
4.39 for Spirited Away and 4.31 for Howl's Moving Castle.
Nice.
Is there a higher rated anime than that?
Not anime, it's animation. I think Spider-Verse might be higher rated.
Spider-Verse must be, yeah, but there's not much on Netflix other than Studio Ghibli.
Oh, it's mostly TV, isn't it? Yeah.
I was hoping that the last Slam Dunk was still on there and you're going to pick that Kambole, because I still haven't got around to watching that, and that looks astonishing to me. But
I love The Last Slam Dunk. I love Slam Dunk so much.
Is it off Netflix now? Did you check? That's another film for another time, guys. Kambole, Leslie, you lead up Kambole. Where can we find you? And say goodbye to the listeners.
You can find me on Blue Sky by my first name, @Kambole, and then all the other Blue Sky stuff. I am occasionally on Twitter @Kambole Campbell, and you can find my writings 1/3 of the time in the RE Frame mailouts every week.
Nice. Leslie?
I am still on Twitter. I am on Blue Sky. I am on Instagram. And I do have my blog, and it's all Afro Film Viewer. At the moment, Fatal Attractions is on hiatus, but we will be back soon with more sordid reviews.
We had Eyes Wide Shut on it, and that was not a sexy film. Just wasn't. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. See you next time.
Thanks for coming on. Bye.
She says fuck at the end.
Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us @FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're @FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes, and Rockwood Audio's editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.